As one of the 5 Combaticons to receive a much-needed update, Age of Prime's Vortex has a lot to fulfill. And spoiler alert! You did a good job.
Starting with his alt mode, I don't know much about helicopters, so I looked up TfWiki and they state that it supposedly resembles an unlicensed Socails UH-60 Black Hawk. Furthermore, Vortex's build quality feels solid in the hand and looks amazing from all angles.
Almost. More on that later in the video. I do, however, like the overall shades of grey that they use for Vortex, as well as painted black windows with lighter grey frames, the tooling details, turbine engines, and the main propeller to the point that if you listen carefully after spinning it, you can faintly hear. They can also be removed in place of any 5mm attachments, like his main blaster, or War for Cybertron's Ratchet or Ironhide's axe handle, or Generations IDW Windblade's katana shield, or the actual katana, or Revenge of the Fallen's Legend class Jetfire.
Because it's funny!
Legacy Armada will. Vortex has a lot of places for his accessories to pin. 2 in the front, 2 in the front bottom, 8 at the middle bottom, 2 in the middle side, 2 in the rear side tails, and 2 in the rear bottom tails. That's a lot of places to store his main blaster and 2 smaller ones. But if they fit, plug it to your Spark's content.
We're not saying you should do that.
No, you shouldn't.
We're just saying you can do it.
In terms of accuracy to the animated TV series, it leans more towards a stylized design, which may explain why it roughly resembles an unlicensed Socails UH-60 Black Hawk and not an unlicensed Common SH-2C sprite from G1. So in other words,
Nope!
But the essence of Vortex remains faithful, down to the blue stripe at the front center of the helicopter and the location of the mini propellers. Wait, was it in the other side? Finally, as one of the 5 Combaticons to form the mighty Bruticus, you can separate Vortex to become the left hand. If for some reason you want to separate Vortex manually, albeit for photography, first pull out the top part of the helicopter to unhook these 2 tabs. Then use a flathead screwdriver to disengage the snap lock. And you should have 2 pieces for Bayverse Megatron. But beware! You may damage the tabs, so do it sparingly, or just wait for Commander Class Onslaught for Prime knows how long. Probably next year. Or just get Superion because for some reason, Vortex could become his left hand. It could be a hint for Alpha Bravo. But it's time to transform Vortex into his robot mode. For ease of transformation, all the accessories were removed. And don't forget to fold up his landing gear. Firstly, position the rear propellers so that you can rotate the tail counterclockwise. Next, swing the tail fins towards the rear tail of the helicopter. Then, split the tail in half at around 45 degrees. Afterwards, twist the shoulders 90 degrees to reveal the Decepticon insignia. Now, push the shoulder hinges in place before you push in the face cover and rotate Vortex head in place. Alright, here comes the delicate part. Pinch the lower part of the arm and slowly push out the hands so you can hinge it out. Rotate the twin turbine engines down. Do the same for the other. Position his arms up so that you can rotate the roof panel at 90 degrees. Pop out his leg covers before pulling out the tabs that holds his legs. Accordion out his legs until they snap in place. Separate the legs like you're opening a book. Close up the leg covers. Rotate the roof panel in place. And finally, open up his foot. Now you can reattach his accessories, and Vortex is complete in his robot mode. In his robot mode, Vortex looks incredibly accurate to the animated TV series from the head sculpt, chest plate, and leg design. With the exception of the hand panels, which by the way are removable for an even more accurate look, it is spot on and more faithful than a certain issue which I've encountered during the transformation phase.
More on that later in the video.
As for his articulation, the head is on a ball joint that allows Vortex to look a full revolution, as well as look up, down, and tilt at a reasonable angle. Vortex shoulders are mushroom joints, which are connected to a shoulder hinge that can be used to bend his arms up if you desire him to shrug. The shoulder joints can do a full revolution of movement, as well as his biceps, which are also mushroom joints. Oh, and the twin engines can rotate too. His elbows are ratcheted and could bend at 90 degrees, but no wrist swivels despite having 5mm compatible hands. Oh, and his propellers could plug into the panel holes for a buzzsaw weapon or a propeller shield. Vortex can twist his mushroom joint waist at full revolution, and he could fold his hips frontwards, backwards, mind the propellers, and sideways. He has thigh rotations with a pinned knee that bends 90 degrees, whereas his heel and toe could fall down due to transformation, and there's a 90 degrees ankle tilt. Overall, you can pull off some dynamic poses, armed with 5mm weapons, and Vortex would remain more stable than my income and health combined. Jokes aside, I really enjoy posing Vortex way more than I initially thought I would, because I'm more into the car transformers. But as my first helicopter transformer I own, second helicopter transformer, I was flabbergasted to be lucky enough to find him in a JB Hi-Fi store when he wasn't even listed on the website. And he was the only one in that store. Only one in that store. Here's the box, here's the price tag that JB Hi-Fi uses, here's the instruction manual, here's the packaging used to wrap his accessories, and here's the warranty paper. Yes, I even kept the warranty paper. Anyway, it's time to bring up the problems. But before that, let's transform Vortex back into his old mode. Again, all of his accessories were removed for ease of transformation. We begin by closing up his feet, followed by opening up his leg covers. Tab in his legs together. Rotate his arms up so it's not in the way, as well as his roof panel. Accordion in his legs, before closing up his leg covers. Now bring down his arms so you could rotate the twin turbine engines up and tab in his arm panels. Do the same for the other side. Rotate the roof panel as well as Vortex's head at 180 degrees. Bring out the face cover and fold out the landing gear. Rotate the arms in place. Push down the hinges halfway so that you can twist in his shoulders. Before you can do the same for the other side, fold out the tail fin of the helicopter. Once you close up everything, rotate his tail fin clockwise. Finally, plug in and fold out his main propeller.
Black Hawk. Vortex has no wrist swivel,
But it's justified due to how the pins connect to the rear helicopter tail and the hexagon holes for attachments are located. Furthermore, there is no room to add a small mushroom joint as it would have added unnecessary complexity, resulting in more labor time, going over budget, and losing durability.
the left panel tends to pop out of Vortex's left hand too easily due to transformation.
This might be a lemon, so your copy may not have that issue. And it's easy to pop it back in place by simply holding his hands at an angle while positioning the tabs next to each other before pushing in place to snap it back together. Simple! The panels were intentionally removable to give Vortex a cleaner, more accurate version to the animated TV series. However, the right panel stays solid, making it quite difficult to remove, whereas the left
So that's still an issue worth pointing out. Even though Vortex has a total of 18 places for his attachments in helicopter mode, 19 if you count his rear propeller holes.
Some of these holes are way too narrow and shallow to even hold in place securely. As a result, best to pin the attachments on the proper 12 deep holes, or 13 if you're chaotically evil,
Like me. The propellers have these small tabs that were supposed to lock in place so that it could spread out perfectly.
but they don't. They just meet and yeet out of the way, making aligning the propellers an OCD's worst nightmare. And that's embarrassing because a Bay vs. Legend class Blackout has better and more satisfying locking propellers than Age of Prime's Vortex. However, you can align the tabs correctly by slightly pushing down the top part of the propellers while rotating it in place until it tabs in place. Minor issue, but still an issue.
His head sticking out of the back in helicopter mode.
Although it's clever to have it as a landing gear, it would likely look better if the head could just, I don't know, fold into the torso, and there definitely is room for it, but they likely skipped out of it due to budgeting costs and added complexity. So we ended up with this.
Some say he shares the same mold as Aerial Bot Slingshot.
And although I see the resemblance in size, sculpture, and where the holes are for combining, it's a good choice. Because, spoiler alert, Slingshot is fantastic. And the designers did a great job using the core of the mold to make Vortex completely different to Slingshot. And it saves costs, so good on them. This is a retool done right. Oh, and you could mix and match them too, so... Vortex retails at $39.98 Australian dollars, or roughly $26 US dollars. But for some reason, he's extremely hard to find, at least in Australia. And so far, the only way you can find one is through Zing. Online. Of all places. For $45! Oh wait, never mind, he sold out. Sure, you may find Vortex in some of the conventions like the Monster Vintage Toy Fair, which by the way is based, but that's a lot of time, money, and effort for a recent Transformer that might have been released too early. So I guess your best bet is to get lucky and find one at a reasonable price, or hope that Hasbro re-releases him along with other Combaticons. Oh, and I actually spotted one at Big W recently, so there is hope. And hope there is! Courtesy of that toy guy, it appears that Vortex will get a reissue. With good articulations, almost faithful G1 design, solid build quality, with some minor hiccups, pretty easy transformation, and as one of the 5 Combaticons to form Bruticus, Age of Prime's Deluxe Class Vortex is a buy for sure, even if you just want a solid helicopter transformer. Is what I would say if you do not live in Australia, because any listings over $40 Australian is beyond standard pricing for all of the Age of Primes and Studio Series Deluxe Class Transformer, and it makes no sense since the other combiners are still available to buy, to this day! Look, if you really want him for the Bruticus Combiner or a solid deluxe size helicopter and you're willing to fork out over $40 or put in the effort to seek elsewhere for a reasonably priced Vortex, go for it. Your money, your call. But again, I would recommend you wait for the reissue when the other Combaticons will also start appearing on shelves alongside Vortex. And that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support this video, like and share and subscribe for more updates on when I upload or see photos. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you next time. And remember...